something.
All right. I'll do a record too.
Because we'll be all talked out. We'll go, what are we talking about? I don't know.
Yeah. So let's, why don't we get into our conversation here?
Okay.
And so we're just a very timely conversation about duality and perspectives. And I think a lot of us in the spiritual communities and the conspiracy communities are having awakenings. You know, yourself, you said fairly recently, right? Our last conversation, I forgot when that was.
It was about the awakening was only about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are sort of having spontaneous situations. Luckily for me, I had a very nice gradual. I mean, there were moments when it was getting intense.
Yeah.
But and by no means am I talking the beans every night and seeing things. But I definitely have had some unusual experiences, and a lot of people are sort of having these unusual experiences. And yourself, in your experience, quite extreme. In the beginning there. Oh, and it sounds like you're still going through some experiences.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to stop. I don't think even for me, I've been in this for several years now, 10 years since my UFO sighting. And
you're still getting that.
Still getting
thing.
Yeah. And just recently I feel like I'm really starting to understand I like to sort of connect the science and the spirituality, following the mainstream science. And I do talks. I did one over the summer that I live streamed about sort of connecting the spirituality with the science a little bit. And what we have, there's a lot of talk in the spiritual world about going into the fifth dimension.
Yeah.
And then the split of the two earths, or the split of all the bad stuff's going to go over here and all the good stuff's going to go over here. And as long as you're, taking your vitamins and eating healthy and, meditating and thinking good thoughts, then you're going to go into the good side, and all the bad stuff's going to go over there. As I'm researching more and more and sort of finding out, and having these conversations with these extra dimensionals, I'm starting to come to the conclusion, and many are coming to this conclusion, that the idea of duality and these terms that we use of fifth dimension and the splitting of the light and the dark, these are really just concepts and terms that we use to help us understand because of our dimensional perspective in the fourth dimension. So I say we're in the fourth dimension. Science says we're in the fourth dimension. We have up, down, left, right, space-time.
Yeah.
And we're moving into sort of a fifth dimensional perspective. I also use the term density. And I think that, so when we say 3D and 4D, I think
density in English just means thick.
It is, yeah. Density is just thick. So the density, third density consciousness, and it's sort of a scale and a level to measure consciousness. And third density consciousness is where the human existence has sort of resided. The human consciousness has been third density for eons. We're moving into the fourth density. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's a slow gradation of moving into the fourth density. And the more fourth density we reside in, the more consciousness that is in the fourth density, then we can start to experience fifth dimensional perspectives. So dimensional awareness would be more of a perspective. As we see up, down, left, right, space-time is how we measure things in a linear way. Fifth dimensional perspectives, the beginnings of, is at least what I can tell, is that we're getting out of our linearity of measuring things and from here to here. And all of the science is telling us that time itself is an illusion. the past is just as malleable as the future. And these are all concepts and ideas that we're able to start to have now because our consciousness is flowing from third density to fourth density. We're liquefying and massaging our density in our perspectives. This phone would be a first density, maybe closer to a second density consciousness, because it's thick. The phone doesn't have its sentientness to peer into, even though it has a camera, it can peer into other worlds and sort of have its own thought process and things and these kinds of things.
Yeah, it's got its own consciousness in a
right. And animals and plants would be more of a second density consciousness, where they don't have the awareness of space-time. Mm-hmm. They're more about the moment, moving on instincts, more of a collective consciousness in a lot of ways. There are individuals, obviously individual soul consciousnesses within our pets and our cats and other animals. You can totally see that. You peer into the eye. But they're also evolving into a third density consciousness, where humans were, and we're moving into this, or the animals and plants are moving into that. And so as we sort of expand our consciousness and our awareness and our terms and our perspectives, and that's what moving into the fifth dimension is about, then we can understand
like you said about the the hawk earlier.
Yes.
Once you get into the fifth, it's going to be looking at it from that perspective.
Right. And the hawk perspective is, I wouldn't necessarily say that is a fifth dimension or fourth dimensional perspective, but along those lines, where you can sort of pull out, and this would be, I guess, a fifth dimensional perspective, is where you can pull out of that linear timeline, and you can sort of see, okay, the start of life, the end of life, of my timeline, my third density Reuben.
Yeah.
It starts here and ends here. Now I can pull back and I can go into any part of that life. And not only this life, and now we're realizing through our science and through our spirituality that there's multiple timelines and there's multiple Reubens, and they're going in different directions and different probabilities. So I can pull myself out of this linear timeline and I can see, oh, wow, there's the future Reuben on this timeline, that if I make these choices, that I'm going to get to that spot. And if I can see that from this hawk perspective, then I'm going to go back in to my linear, 4D experience and make these choices.
Yeah. Reuben from the future is going to come back to the Reuben here and now.
Right.
Tell him what to do
to make those choices, to get on that timeline, to go to that, to have that outcome of that reality. Yeah. And that essentially, when we get into our higher versions of ourselves, higher selves, we call this, or our oversoul, then that's when we can access these other timelines. We can access other versions of ourselves, which are our ET families, our ET higher dimensional beings are literally us from the future, on different timelines, evolving in different ways. And they have developed these higher perspectives, these higher dimensional, they live in these higher dimensional realms, and they have access to that at any time. That's why they can come back. It's harder for them because they sort of reside in these higher densities and higher dimensions. So they have to sort of downgrade their energy a little bit to connect with us, to say, hey, Reuben, let me feed you some information. And then we have to raise our frequency, right, through meditation or whatever means. And, well, whatever means, I should say, actually, by whatever excites us, whatever, that excitement energy is a very high vibration. Love, excitement, passion, compassion, forgiveness, these frequencies, these energies are very high vibration, and therefore by us sort of being in that frequency, soaking in those frequencies on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And we can do that through meditation, but we can also do it just in our daily lives, in our daily choices and practices and our thoughts and sort of management of that. And we can then step up, again, not saying that anything down here is bad or anything like that, but we can step up to these higher frequencies and then make the connection to these other versions of ourselves that can then give us more information, so then we can then get to our higher dimensional perspective, so then we can navigate ourselves on these timelines in this lower density dimensional forms to say, okay, this is the direction I want to go.
That message I sent you about the avatar,
that was perfect.
That was totally cool. But I'll get stuff like that down, but I can't. I'm thinking it all and writing it down at the same time, but I can't sort of get it to go bleh out of my mouth. But it's pouring into my head. And writing it down, so I know it's channeled, but I can't get to that point where I'm just sort of coming out with it.
Well, a lot of the channelers that I interview, they're saying that the more they do the channeling, so there's this, Lisa talks about this. So there's Lisa Royale here, and then there's Sasha, this other sort of version of her in a higher dimension in the Pleiades, in far, far future, different dimensional realm.
Yeah.
That has access to all this higher information. And the more she channels, the more she brings through, she goes into that channeling state, the more those two beings start to merge into one being. And I think that's, so the channeling, and I think that's why following our excitement, and we're all channelers. We all do, when we do what we love, whether it's art, music, whatever our passion is, we're channeling a higher vibrational frequency through us. And if we're not fully conscious of it, which most of us aren't, when we get into these states, when we really, you sort of zone out and you're like, wow, where did the time go? What happened, right? So you're bringing this through, but the more you're in that state, the more you're making this connection to this higher state.
Yeah.
And then eventually they merge. So then you are aware. You then become more aware of that state, and you're like, oh, I can tap into this any time, and I can, and I have that information now. I don't have to do a ritual to get into that state. I am that state. It is me. I am it. It's no longer the separation is no longer there.
Yeah. It was, I know when I was writing it down, I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool.
Yeah. And that was very timely. Thank you. It's very timely. I'm hoping, I haven't gotten an official call to go back and work on the films yet, but fingers crossed, knock on wood, that
get a few days off first.
Yeah, they're supposed to start cranking up in September, so we'll see what happens.
What is that for, another film?
For the next Avatar films.
So. Oh right, I didn't even realize you were in the next one.
Well, no, I don't know.
Or there was going to be another one.
Yeah,
sort of thing,
yeah. There's 4 in the works actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they've announced 4, and they're doing testing right now, and they're supposed to go.
That makes that message even cooler.
Yes.
Really.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I didn't know that.
Absolutely. No, that's why I was like very timely with the message.
Wow.
And everything. So it was perfect.
Oh, I just thought you meant that because you were on your way home again. Wow.
Well, I was actually on my way home, and I was hoping to go to the set and visit.
Oh, so you were already thinking about the Avatar thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
very
cool.
Timely. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm sure, you will be. You will. Yeah. Absolutely.
in some form or fashion. I don't know if I'll reprise my old role as the main stunt double. It's been 10 years since then. My body's gotten...
You're getting old now.
Getting a little older, and I don't know if I want to continue to fall down as much as I did in the first one. I don't mind. I would do it. It was definitely a fun experience, but I did get beat up a lot on that show and over the years, and had some injuries. I tore my ACL, and some things have happened since. So I want to play it a little bit safer this time.
Yeah. I'll have to, that's probably one film I should watch again, really. I watched it when it first came out, and I remember bits of it, but I imagine if I watched it now, I would just completely understand, get it, and probably have more revelations by watching it than it just sort of going over my head.
Yeah,
Like
I've watched.
If you're not awake and you watch a film.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times after the fact, and it definitely has a much deeper message, and I have more appreciation for it now than I did, especially while I was making it. I often say that Avatar was sort of the catalyst for me, for my sort of awakening, if you want to call it that, because I was working on the film and I was being exposed to all these indigenous teachings, right? And that's essentially what it is these indigenous ancient teachings, which are the same teachings from our cosmic families. And and they, I had to play a character and be a Navi, be an alien teaching these indigenous things to this, to Jake Sully and the humans. And I got to be both. I got to be a human and a Navi, and sort of going back and forth. So just being in that energy really started to open my eyes to all of this stuff. And then simultaneously having my UFO sighting experience and learning about, 9/11 and, all this conspiracy stuff.
That's really where it all kicked off then.
It did. It was 2007. That was 2006, 2007. That's when we were deep in filming Avatar. And that's when things really, my world started to rock and change in that sense, going into where leading me to where I am now, developing content and having these conversations.
Oh, wow. I don't know if 2007 was that a year 9? So that would have been like.
Oh, I'm not sure what the numerology behind
completions and that, and
yeah,
new beginnings and that. So that would have made sense.
Yeah, that was a big one for me, 2007. Yeah. And then, and now here we are. And now we're talking about, different dimensional perspectives and, and all kinds and baboons and stuff like that. So, but yeah, going back to our conversation, I think as we expand in these awarenesses, then we start to, so we're using these terminologies for get away, the light and the dark and all the stuff. It's sort of analogies. It's not truly what I think the message, these higher perspective and higher dimensional messages that are coming through, truly what they mean. And I would say this even more for, ancient scriptures and the biblical terms and these things. People take it so literally.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that the consciousness on this planet 2,000 years ago was way different than it is now. I mean, we've evolved and we've expanded, and the density is risen. So we create terms and filters for this higher dimensional material, and so this idea of the splitting of light and dark, and the bad guys are going to go over here and the good guys are going here. I don't think it's going to quite happen like that.
No. But in all honesty, me being me, the way I was the other week when things were popping up, and Men in Black and all the rest of it, at the back of my head, I'm thinking, no, you're not dragging me down again, because I won't get into the time slip and I won't go into the right side. And I had all that at the back. It was really weird because I had all of that at the back of my mind. At the same time, it was all happening, and I'm thinking, no, I'm supposed to be going up. You're not taking me down with you because I need to get over. I need to time. I need to shift over. You're not doing this to me. It was so that duality. It's really been.
And that's what we have in our internal dialogues. We and this is
that was my internal dialogue.
You were having a conversation with yourself. And because it's easier that way to sort of say, look, no, I'm not going to do that and do this. And we have to sometimes do that. We have to, and that's the opposite of the Hawk perspective. From the Hawk's perspective, it's all one. It's all one merging, But then you get down in it and you're like, well, you can see clearly, well, that energy is black, this energy is white, and I'm here, and I'm, and it gets sort of clear definitions and lines. When you pull back, it's all
the same thing. But when you're right in the middle of it, there's that clear definition of light side and dark side. And
right. So I would, which is important. So, and it's not one or the other. And this is one of the big things I got from the Lisa Royale conference I was recently at in Japan. Sort of simultaneously, all my meditations lately have been dealing with this sort of paradoxal, dichotomy of perspectives. And she really pointed out, and she's like, our entire reality is based on paradoxes and not dualities, but dichotomies. Mm-hmm. So, and what that does, what these two complete opposites coexisting at the same time, not this or that, but this and that. Yeah. And when they can exist at the same time, and when you can perceive them existing at the same time, as this, being down in the field and getting all these different energies and then pulling back and seeing, well, that's its own reality there. Seeing these paradoxes, this hawk perspective going in and out, and they both exist, and it's not one or the other. When you can accept that, and when these two can exist, then alchemy is created. Mm-hmm. And what alchemy does is it pulls through a third perspective, a third dimensional reality, so to say, that is beyond the yin and yang, beyond the duality.
Would you take that as Christ consciousness, the third energy?
Well, definitely going that direction. Yeah, for sure, because now you're no longer confined to duality. You're no longer confined to this or that. You're now seeing the yin and yang symbol for the wholeness of what it is, and not saying, and this is in so much of our history and our stories and everything, well, the dark is bad and the light is good. And we've had this perspective of dark. And so we look at the yin and yang, well, that's black and that's white and this is good and this is bad. But if you can sort of see it as, well, no. This is a totality. This is what it is. And its fullness is amazing. Then you start inviting new energies in. And I've learned this through the Wim Hof breathing techniques I've been doing, the science I've been studying.
Is that that's the cold?
The cold therapy, yeah.
You were doing, did you carry that on?
Yeah, I still doing it. When I travel, it's a little bit hard to keep it up, and especially in the summertime, getting access to cold showers is a little bit harder. But up in the mountains here, my showers are still pretty cold in the summertime. So with that, so what we're doing in the Wim Hof techniques, breathing, is we're taking in a lot of air. Mm-hmm. You're sort of oversaturating yourself with oxygen. Yeah. And then you, at the end of a session, you do about 40 breaths, and then you let it all out. And then you hold your breath. So it's on the exhale, you hold. Yeah. And you hold it for, as far as you can, which is a few minutes. Then you take in another deep, big breath. You hold that just for about 15 seconds, but during that deep breath, your pineal gets activated. You start, some people have visions. Yeah. And then the scientists initially were trying to say, well, you're just hyperventilating and you're doing all this stuff. And they have all their talks about what's going on. But on a spiritual level, you're creating alchemy. Yeah. You're going to these extreme polarities. And the breath itself is a duality, going in and out, going in and out. Yeah. It's a constant in and out. So if you and it's a built-in mechanism we have, part of this body. So if we can tap into that, then that's what Wim Hof techniques do. And there's tons of other techniques out there, Kundalini yoga techniques of tapping into different breathing techniques. When we can go to these polarities, these extremes, and not judge which is bad or which is good. And our breath, the exhale is just as important as the inhale.
Yeah.
And you have to do both. And for your survival, to live in this dualistic reality. But by controlling that, and then you start to activate these the hypothalamus, the third eye, the pineal, all this stuff is getting activated. And then what happens when you expose yourself to the cold, your immediate reaction typically with the cold is to clench up, to freeze, right? To keep it from getting in. Don't let the cold in. It's gonna. So your body clenches and it gets in the state. But what you're doing in the cold, and what Wim Hof and part of the breathing techniques help you deal with this, is to relax. And when you get into the cold water and you just breathe and you're not clenching and you just relax. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't bother you anymore. The cold isn't cold anymore.
Yeah.
And what's happening is you're creating, again, a paradox, because now you have this extreme outside force that is, against your skin, extreme temperatures. Your body temperature is as its own extreme temperature. And instead of you clenching and trying to fight it, now you're relaxed into it. And now you're creating, because now you're accepting the light. You're creating a paradox. You're creating a duality where you're accepting both the hot, which your body is, and the cold, and you're not fighting it. So now you get to create the third reality, which is coexistence of the two.
Yeah.
And then that's why Wim Hof is able to coexist in these extreme situations and in extreme climates. Climb Mount Everest in shorts, sit in an ice bath for 2 hours, without, and then the pineal and everything else. It's the universe will give you the tools it needs to sustain that perspective.
This is disciplining your mind as well.
Yeah. The mind wants to fight it.
As well.
That first sensation, every time I get in the shower, every night I get in that shower, and that first one in my mind is like, oh my God. So a lot of it's prepping the mind. It's like, no, just relax. And then you feel it for that second, that split second, it hits your body. You're like, that does not feel good.
No.
But then immediately you're like, just relax. And as soon as you relax, that split second, you relax into it. Then I could be in that shower for an hour, it feels like, and it wouldn't bother me. So doing the Wim Hof has been a great teacher for me to learn the importance of duality, paradoxes, and dichotomies, to sort of the coexistence of both. And when we can, again, I think the next challenge especially for the spiritual community, is not to judge these dark energies per se, these energies that we see as bad or black or dark and evil, but then to sort of be okay with it and sort of relax into that whole idea and not clinch up and not, oh, it's a bad energy, oh my God. But just say, oh, that's a bad energy, or that's an energy. It is what it is. It's no longer see it as a bad energy. It is what it is. You don't have to go into that. You don't have to go into the cold. Or if you do go into the cold, it's not going to affect you.
Yeah.
Relax.
Stay as balanced as you can while you're in that.
Yeah, just relax into it, and just know that you it's also having that groundedness yourself, and knowing that no matter how cold that water is, having the confidence that you will be you, that you are going to sustain yourself, that you have the tools that's not going to, your internal organs are going to stay warm and you're going to be fine. It may sting a little on the outside for a second or two, but when you can start to shift that perspective into that, that's the fifth dimensional perspective. I think that's, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that's moving into this higher realms, the higher densities.
And it is learning to control our mind to a certain extent, because
and not get caught up in the in the craziness of it all. But have fun, play the game, follow the guy on the bicycle. You should jump on a bicycle too and ride up next to him. And
I did think of shouting out the window going, "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?"
Exactly.
I'd got past unbelievable by that point. I was just like, what?
Well, I mean, just by doing that, and it sounds like you're not buying into the fear.
Well, I knew. I mean, it was obviously a guy in a Range Rover and all the rest of it. That part was like, whoa, what's going on? And I even, bless me, I shouldn't have done it, but I phoned one of the guys that had been at the conference, and I was like, there's a guy in a Range Rover and he's outside. And of course, he plays into it then because of the things he talks about. And it ended up with me moving the car and me and my son, or me specifically, with a torch, checking the underside of my car. Literally, because the guy I'd spoken to, he's like, check the tracking devices and check for this, that, and the other. And I'm under the car rims with a torch, and I'm trying to check the grills. So anyway, by the time I'd done that, and I moved the car, and then it came back. But when I saw him ride down the road on a bicycle, it was almost like, it was just so ridiculous to see that. At that point, I could just see that it was like one big stupid act, just like a drama being played out in front of me, like the cliche
TV shows we watch all the time, right?
That's how it felt when I finally saw him on the bike. I was like, no, this is just beyond stupid now. This is just
that's why I actually have a hard time watching a lot of TV shows, because we've told ourselves those stories so many times, and I'm just like, it's the same old story. The same old thing. We've done this so many times. There's got to be a better story. And essentially that's what we're doing in this life, right? We're telling ourselves the story. What story do we want to play? And for a lot of people, it's still exciting to get caught up in the drama of that same story. The bomb under the car and the thing. But here's what happens is, sure, you may laugh at it now, but if you keep perpetuating that story, there will be a bomb under your car.
Exactly.
And you will start
produce that.
You will start playing with those energies and start playing with.
When I look back at it, I actually, I like the fact he came back on a bike.
I know, it's hilarious. It kind of helps break it.
Had he not come back on the bike,
right?
There's me checking under the car like a complete loon, looking for stuff, leaving my car around the corner, all the rest of it. Coming home, I would have been sat there petrified, thinking, oh my God, what the hell happened and what's going on? But because he deliberately, whatever the hell happened, because he came back on a bike and then turned around and did the same maneuver as the Range Rover and everything, at that point, he made himself look ridiculous, which made me realize that the whole situation and the whole scenario was some sort of stupid illusion, some sort of something. It made me feel a lot better.
It was probably, again, your higher self kind of helping orchestrate that situation, so you could so it'd snap you out of that spiral.
Maybe.
Because laughing at it and just like, what the? Because
serious?
We have to have those moments where you got to be kidding me. And I was having those during my conspiracy phase when I was doing the citizens hearing, and I would have some really unusual things like that kind of happen. But then
you were surrounded by what you did was amazing with the congressional hearing. It was, but at the same time, you were surrounded by people who
in that energy. I was deep in that
energy, which I'd been in all weekend. Last weekend.
But I had, luckily, my higher self too created moments that I just had to laugh at. I was just like, "You got to be kidding me! This is what's happening. This is really what's happening next."
Yeah,
and I got to laugh at those situations, and the laughter helps break the that spiral. So it's really nice. Laughter, use it any chance you can. I'm always laughing all the time.
It's really like that. Yeah. I don't know which Harry Potter film it is when they.
I haven't seen them all.
Possible, and then
right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was like.
Yes. And which is great. I love laughter. It's a great tool. Use it when you can. Sometimes I use a little too much because I'm in, I was just coming from Lisa Royale's conference and went to nearby Mount Fuji and was climbing this mountain and was on the top of the mountain and doing my Wim Hof breathing and looking. I had the sunset over here. I had a full moon coming over the horizon over here, and I had Mount Fuji right in front of me. And then a big ship flies over, and at that point, I just busted out laughing.
Right.
A ship, a craft of some sort,
wow,
flies over, and I'm just in the middle of this amazing, beautiful view, just doing my breathing. And at that point, I just bursted out laughing. And it was just like, this is ridiculous. You can't make this up. You can't, like, this. I felt like I was in, the biggest movie. Yeah,
that's what it feels like sometimes. Yeah. It's like you've just been stuck in the middle of this movie, and everyone's just acting and playing out a role, and you're like, whoa. Yeah.
But it's exactly what's happening. It's actually exactly
the laughter is brilliant. It does. Yeah. It did dissipate that.
Yes.
And I think it's important. I mean, I've got a 12-year-old daughter who's still, bless her, she can be doing whatever, and then she'll stand at my door while I'm working, and she'll go into fits of giggles where she literally doubles down on the floor because she's crying her eyes out, laughing, and that inner child that she hasn't got a clue why she's laughing. She just got no idea why she's giggling. Right. She's just on one of those giggling fit child things.
Sure.
And if we can keep up with that sort of thing at our age and keep that inner child going.
Absolutely. Huge fan of the inner child. I still feel like I'm 12 years old sometimes. Most of the time, actually. And every day it's just, when you can go into that, the weight of the world, all of the, especially us grown-ups having to deal with life, right? Deal with paying the bills and these kinds of things. That just all goes away. And it's such a great place to be in. And again, balancing it out, not fully surrendering to that child, because there are still grown-up things we have to do in this world, but to have a nice balance between the two and to be able to go back and forth and be okay with that.
Yeah.
And not judge the child laughing, the inner laughter child. That's a great place to be. I love it.
I never judge. Just like, wow, that's just amazing. I wish I could still, and I still do that sometimes. I'll just laugh for no reason whatsoever, but it's just so spontaneous for no reason whatsoever. Doorknob on the door can set her off laughing sometimes. It's it's just simple things like that, but that lifts whatever darkness you've got going on. That just lifts it all.
So, it breaks the energy up to everything. I mean, even an amazing, like I was having this amazing moment on the mountain, and I was just like, what? Oh my God. And that was, in its own right, that was like its own, just like, oh, aha, wow moment. But then I couldn't even contain it anymore. I was just like, this is just ridiculous. And start laughing. So that's like the opposite spectrum of, instead of fear-based, and it's just like this amazing, and I still laughed my head off to sort of break it sort of broke the energy up a little bit, but it was great because
wow, that's really cool.
What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
In that moment.
No, that's amazing. But yeah, so that dissipated all the fear-based stuff or whatever came up with that weekend. So it's just so I got to choose a conference next time that's not quite so even that, but it's obviously I brought that energy, or I drew that energy, or and even on the way there getting stopped by the police and so on and so forth, I was already into that mode even on the way there, I suppose. Exactly. So
the next conference that you get a call for, I'm sure it'll be one that's more in line with having this conversation now and hearing and seeing where you're at. I'm sure it'll be more in line with where you're headed and what direction you're going. So I would trust
lighter.
Trust whatever comes your way is exactly what you need in the moment.
I was just going to say, I think I needed to be there. I needed to experience that.
Sure, absolutely.
And of course, it was my first time as well. Yeah. So you have to start.
Doesn't mean you have to take everything that comes on your plate.
Yeah.
But it does. But just trust that what does come along your path and on your plate, then the universe is wanting you to look at it for a reason.
Yeah.
Or yourself, your higher self is wanting to look at it for a reason. So then, you'll have the option to take whatever conference comes along next time. And if it's another conspiracy one, then look at all the options that are made available to you in the moment. And if that one is all you got and that's what you want to do.
I didn't realize it'd be quite as, it'd get to me quite as much as it did.
Yeah.
But like you said, the one that you went to, there was loads of different sort of.
You mean the one in Japan that I just recently? The one in Japan, or?
I think so. Yeah, the Lisa.
Yeah. So that was just a sort of a private seminar conference. There was only about 30, 40 people there. Mm-hmm. And that was more of a workshop, I would say.
Right.
For weekend workshop. And everybody was, there's a few people I'm sure that were buying into the conspiracy stuff, but the talks that were being taught were not really about that. It was more about spirituality, energy, some science stuff too, and then making contact. It was a contact retreat. So
contact in the desert in Joshua Tree, is that more that way inclined?
Well, contact in the desert has everything. It's the complete spectrum from making contact on a spiritual basis to all the aliens are going to eat us for dinner. That you have that spectrum of people and researchers and things. And it's all true. This is where I acknowledge it all. It's
depending on which paradigm you're in, it's true.
And which paradigm and which timeline you're running on. If you go down if you follow the aliens are going to eat us guy, if you follow him, eventually, I'm sure in maybe a couple 100 years, you'll probably get eaten by aliens.
We're going to be in that. But if we're talking about the Earth shifting into different directions, then you're going to be in that direction.
Exactly. So, contact in the desert has a complete spectrum of range of people. So, you just get to hang with who you want to hang with. And I've got feet in every avenue. The people who the aliens are going to eat us people, I don't hang with them on a daily basis, but I'm able to at least go in there and have that conversation.
Yeah, you can dip into it though when you want to, when you feel a little bit.
Sure. I don't,
and
not be judgmental about it.
No.
Simply
because
take
it's there. It's completely their truth.
Yes. And I subscribe to what Bashar says is all truths are true.
Yeah.
So
whichever way it's coming from, and it is actually their truth and their belief. So that is very real to them, just as whatever we believe is very real to us as well.
Exactly. And then the big question you have to ask yourself is, how does it serve you?
Yeah.
Does subscribing to that belief system, is it serving me in my evolution, my growth, and where I want to go?
Yeah.
You know, taking that higher hawk perspective that we're saying, seeing your future, is subscribing to this belief, is that going to get me to where I want to be over here? And typically those sort of fear-based belief systems don't really put me to where the direction that I want to see,
no, because
that I see myself.
If you're in a fear-based thing like that, then that fear is going to become a block, which stops you getting higher. And if you get into that position as well, we have to remember that.
Right. Yeah.
Like get out of it quickly.
Remember that we actually have control to get to that higher place that we want to get to.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just surrender their power. They give that away to, oh, well, it's this outside force, and they're not aware of their beliefs. They're not aware of their actions, and they get caught up in all of that, seeing it's this external force. And you're like, well, all you have to do is shift your perspective on the whole thing, and you can get to that place of bliss and
obviously the outside force, the darkness, whatever you want, it does turn up physically.
Sure.
It really does. And it does, as with happened with me.
Yeah, your past couple weeks.
Yeah.
You had a great testimony.
Physically.
Yes.
It's just remembering though that we're still responsible for that.
Yes. And sometimes, even when you're not necessarily inviting it in, it'll still show up.
There for a lesson.
It'll still show up. I've had stuff show up. Some dark stuff. I've had some dark stuff show up. And luckily, I was at a place. I was strong enough in my beliefs and my spirituality that I knew not to buy into the fear.
Yeah.
And I was able to tell that entity, that energy, whatever it was, that it was not welcome in my space. And I said, I'm sorry. And to be honest, for a split second, I was deeply. I've had two experiences where I had some dark energies come in. I could recognize them off the bat as just really.
Was that physical or? Again,
I would say more in spiritual, or in etheric.
Somebody else.
Yeah, but I could physically see. I had physical eyesight of what it was.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody else could see it, but I definitely saw it. And I held my ground and I said, no, I'm sorry, you're just not welcome here.
Yeah. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I said, you just, the energy. I was so attuned or confident in who I am, my energy, that I knew that it could not exist in the same space. So instead of getting caught up in, oh my God, it's a demon, it's a fear, for a second I was like, holy shit, these things are real. That's that you do get that initial. But then I was like, but you're real. I understand it, but I'm not going to get caught up in that fear. And I'm sorry, you just got to go. And it left, Eventually it left. And I said, myself and these others that are in the room, because it was with a group, I said, we're not going to play that game. And this energy does not match with what we're trying to do here. And it was at a healing workshop. And it left. It just went away.
You get crashing a healing workshop.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Well, it came out of this person. I actually saw a demonic energy come out of this person. And I was like blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. But again, I at least I guess through spiritual practices and training and stuff, I knew enough that when it did show up, that I didn't totally lose my bonkers, and I was able to sort of say, hey, you gotta go, man. This is not cool. It's not the place for you. And it went. And then I had another sort of in more of a dream state, sort of that what do you call it? sleep paralysis, where I had some energies. I had sort of woken up from a dream, knew the energy was where I couldn't move. It was like on my chest, pushing down, and I felt that energy.
Yeah.
And initially, you're like, what the hell is happening here? This is crazy. But again, just knowing that, this is not.
Yeah.
Gotta go, buddy. And I couldn't physically even move my mouth. I was trying to. And then finally I was like, get out, I screamed it out.
Yeah.
And then it left,
Yeah. And that's the thing to do. Just take control of it for it to dissipate. And on even that night with the Men in Black thing and the guy on the bike, for the first time in absolutely ages, I had a nightmare that night, which I don't have nightmares. I had vampires and all sorts in it, and I knew that it was directly connected to all of that.
Sure.
And obviously over the past couple of weeks things have calmed down, but a couple of times as I'm falling asleep, when you sort of see things in your pineal gland, in your mind's eye, as you're settling down and you're getting relaxed, and things pop in there, and you're like, what? I've had I did have a couple of I think they were reptilian, or they must have been reptilian, something that didn't look particularly great. Luckily it wasn't as an energy directly in front of me physically. It was in my mind's eye, so I sort of said, hi, you're lovely, but I'm trying to go to sleep and I really don't want to interact with you right now. Please go away.
That's perfect. Yes, that's it. So I love the fact that you said it's really lovely. Yeah,
you're really lovely, but can you go away, please? I sort of think to myself, I just sort of send them a bit of love, and because they don't like that really.
Yeah, because the vibrational frequency of what that energy is not a match for what that love is. So when you send it love, when you say it's lovely, it literally is repelled by that energy.
It's like, what?
But if you buy into the fear, and if you're scared, and it's attracted, it gets strength from that. So
they love all that stuff. So I'm very good at doing that if it appears. I just get a little bit when it starts doing it in the physical. I'm like, oh Christ, well, you really? But
I had also, just to sort of tag off of that, during a meditation, I had this big scary sort of dragon looking character come into my mind's eye, and I get first instinct is to sort of pull back and like, whoa, my God, this is scary. And it's and it had the fangs, and it was dripping and all that stuff you see in the films.
And when we say that they're appearing in our mind's eye, I mean, we are talking 3D glasses, HD sound.
Oh yeah,
they are real,
for sure. Yeah,
real.
No, they
might as well be stood in front of you, really.
Yeah, you're in a meditative state, but you're like, whoa, you're just
it's not like
it's like watching a movie
picture or something. They're fully graphical.
Yeah, it's like being in the theater and having that emotion in the theater of getting scared crazy. But in that moment, I got scared for a second, but then I was like, oh, cool, look at that. It's kind of like,
the dripping with blood.
I was like, oh man, that is so cool. And as soon as I did that, it popped it shifted, and it turned into a cartoon character. And
I've had that.
And it was like, it reminded me of Shrek. You know how Shrek, the character Shrek, how he's always trying to scare people, and he's like, he's looking all, and then but he's this really cute little guy, or big guy. So immediately it turned into this like cartoon looking dragon, and I'm like, wait, what happened to the coolness? You're just a cartoon, and it was like this lovely, funny looking cartoon character. And I think that's how we shift the energy. That's how we're able to sort of not get caught up in the. It's
like the Harry Potter thing we said before. Yeah. It is very much once you get rid of the fear of it, it just turns into something ridiculous. And
And then you laugh.
It disappears. And you laugh and it disappears then, and it's really cool then. It's just not getting sucked down into it, but also realizing that we are responsible, because we must be dropping down to a certain vibrational point for that to happen.
Absolutely. Well,
or is it a fact that actually, because I tend to find with me, when this is happening, or when I start going woo woo, it's because I am spiritually stepping up.
Sure. Yes.
I'm ready to expand that box and step out of it a bit more.
Exactly.
And then I seem to get that resistance or that stuff happening.
And some of it is your higher self giving you these nuggets so you can step up, so you can move into these higher dimensional realms, because without the so-called test, I hate to use the word test,
but it is, it does sometimes feel like that.
In a way, you have to give yourself, you have to go into the cold water, and you have to sort of work with that cold water a little bit before you're able to really the first time I went into the cold shower, I got sick because I clenched up. And it was cold, and I was like, ugh, and then I got sick, and I'm like, man, this Wim Hof stuff, this is for the birds. I mean, this is crazy. But then I kept listening to his videos and watching, and then I kept doing the breathing. Even though I didn't do the shower for a week, I did the breathing and meditated, and then I sort of got it, and I was like, oh, I just got to relax through it. So we're not going to get it on the first try, I mean, some of us will, hopefully, but we give ourselves these challenges in order so we can overcome the challenges, right? And that's, I think, some of these experiences with these crazy beings and crazy situations. I don't think we should beat ourselves up and say, oh my God, I lowered my frequency and this thing got in.
Yeah, that's the trick we've got to learn.
It only gets in if you let it. If it shows up, it's showing up for a reason. So let it show up, for the moment. And then you can discern. You can decide, I don't want this around. And then you can banish it, or you can do whatever you want with it. But just because it shows up, I don't think we should beat ourselves up.
Yeah, that's true. It's the choice. It's always the choice that we've got in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you seen any baboons lately? You probably have actually been over in Japan.
You know what? They are in Japan, and I did not see any this trip. No. Trying to think. Okay. Usually they're in the southern part. They're in different areas in Japan. In the Mount Fuji area, only a fox and some deer showed up, but no.
So
in a ship. A ship flew over, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, so that was about it. But I will keep my eyes out for the baboons.
Yeah, definitely.
Could be a sign. Now that you've planted that seed, I'm sure
you're going to start seeing them everywhere now. Yeah, the synchronicities of it now, you're just going to see them everywhere. It's like the car thing.
Yes.
But I wasn't, that didn't scare me. It was more, really?
Yeah.
This is England. What are you doing? And I don't know if it was something, if it was like a little alien shape-shifting, it could have been like an energy.
Yeah.
Shape-shifting. Yeah. Maybe it was showing itself to me in a way that I would accept it.
Yeah,
because I'd seen the Nordics or whatever they were the couple of weeks before in the cars.
Right, and that's what I think is important about all of this phenomenon is I think you did the right thing. Like you went and you looked online, you saw what is the baboon, what does it represent, and these kinds of things. Because a lot of times our programming in this matrix doesn't allow for the real version of whatever that is to show through. So instead it gives us, we create in our minds, we create in archetypal energies that match the frequency of whatever that thing is.
Of whatever it's trying to tell us.
Right.
Yeah.
So to look beyond just the physical form of what is the baboon, but energetically, what does the baboon represent? What is this? Actually, I had an owl nearly fly into my face last night.
Oh, cool.
Outside.
That means something, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I was going to look up the owl and sort of what the archetype of that and all that stuff, because I've never seen an owl up here.
Well, an owl would be wisdom. It would be the ability to be able to look at something from a 360-degree angle, from all angles and above, obviously.
Right.
The owl is also completely associated with ETs.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. I've heard it's put there as a screen memory sometimes. So you could
right.
The fairy.
It could have been an ET in an owl's disguise.
Yeah, you could have been off in the ship for a few hours, and they just put that there as a sort of screen memory for you.
Or myself, creating that situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, good, these conversations, but yeah, I think that kind of situation, we have these interactions with these strange creatures and strange things, and we have to look beyond just the physical interaction.
Yeah, because when I saw the baboon, that was only a few days before the conference, and as I say, I said what the meaning was. It was wisdom. It was defending the family as well. The baboon defends his family. A baboon is not frightened of showing his true feelings within the family group. It'll cry really loudly if it needs to show how it's feeling, which I did at the conference. And when I look back on it and with the conference and everything else, it was pretty much saying, look, here's some advice for when you go. It was almost like that, plus this land of the dead with the connection to the Egyptians and everything, and being the gatekeeper sort of thing of the veil between this world and the next world.
Right.
All very, very much tied in with what happens. But with you seeing an owl, you're going to have to watch out for the next couple of days to, however long, and see what situations come up that you can go, okay, that owl came in to give me these messages to either warn me about a situation that come up, or how to deal with the situation that comes up.
Sure.
Because we never actually see it at the time. We'll just go, oh yeah, there's an owl in my face, flying into my face for some random reason.
Yeah, it literally came. It came around. I don't know. It was around a tree or something. Came literally like it was coming right at me.
Wow.
And then did a U-turn and went away. I was like, whoa, owl in the face.
But he's coming to give you a message and tell you something that is literally about probably something that's going to happen relatively soon, or and it's trying to get used to associating that. I mean, I get a lot of birds doing stupid things in front of me, like in front of the car and flying at you.
Very cool.
But
well,
really cool.
I will definitely keep an eye out, and as always, enlightening conversations. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And I definitely look forward to hearing more about your journey, and whether your conspiracy phase continues or if we move out of that.
That fades into the distance now.
Yes.
And we stay on the positive. It showed me whatever it needed to. It cost me a lot of money. We'll continue to do for a while, and hopefully that was just whatever that was. It's gone and it's done.
Yeah.
And it's sorted. So what are you doing next? So you've got Avatar hopefully coming up.
Well, yeah. That's in September. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. But gonna do some more traveling. I have some more interviews lined up here in the States. The next month. So
is this part of the documentary that you're doing?
This is part of my series, the Interview with Ed series.
Yeah.
I've sort of had taken a break from that for a while.
Yeah.
Because of the traveling and other work and other things going on. But it seems like the stars are aligning and my schedule's opening up, and I'm able to travel and in the States and line up some interviews. So so excited about doing that. And just continuing we have a big, the big American solar eclipse coming up.
Yeah, that's coming
So,
up. I know.
so I have plans to go be in the thick of it with some friends. They have a cabin out in Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to be right in the middle of
which are you looking at as the strongest? Do you think it's going? Well, it's going to be a combination, really, because we've got a lunar eclipse and then we've got the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
As well. So it's going to be a pretty awesome month, energy-wise.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that goes back to the breath. I see these lunar eclipses and solar eclipses as interrupting the usual breath.
Yeah.
To sort of break things up a little bit,
yeah.
As we do with the Wim Hof breath work. The earth, the solar system, and all has a cycle. So when you sort of shift that up a little bit, it's sort of like the earth doing a Wim Hof session.
Yeah. It is. I know the 7th and 8th, I'm just going to try and get some camping gear and just get out into nature and just lap up the energy that's coming through. So I'll try and stay away from.
Is the 7th and 8th? That's lunar eclipse. Is that what's happening?
It's the lunar eclipse. Yeah.
Wow.
7th and 8th of this month. So
nice. That's in a couple of days here. Yeah.
Where
is that going to be able to be viewed?
I don't know where it's going to be actually viewed. Obviously, the solar eclipse is like mostly across.
Yeah, they're calling it the Great American Eclipse because it goes across North America.
Huge. I honestly don't know where we can see it. I'll look it up and send it to you.
All right. Yeah.
I'll send you the link. I'll find it. I'll look for it in a minute and send it across to you. But I just want to. I'm not even bothered if I don't see it. I just want to get out into nature and just get away from, so you can sort of be in a relaxed state when those energies come through, because with those energies comes information. So,
and I'm sure we're already this month going into it. We're going to start feeling it.
We're already.
Like you said, I didn't realize the lunar eclipse was happening. That's we're going to have two whammies this month. It's going to be good stuff. So
we've got Lionsgate as well on the 8th of the 8th.
The 8th of, and what is Lionsgate? Explain that. I just saw that pop up yesterday.
Portal, really energetic portal that's coming up.
Okay.
I'll send you a link for that as well, but that's extreme.
I saw a couple of things yesterday. People are doing meditations on that day.
Sorry?
I saw a link, a couple things post. People are doing a Lionsgate meditation.
Yeah.
Sort of a global meditation thing.
All right.
And I didn't go deep into it. I just was like, oh, what's going on here? So fascinating. Interesting. Wow, what a great month.
So we've got a lot of stuff this month.
Yeah.
A lot of energies, a lot of meditating, and then once all this,
I love it.
How things change.
Yeah, I mean, and there's obviously in our political world and our environmental world and everything else is shifting so fast. What an amazing time to be alive. I'm not going to go down the conspiracy route again, but apparently on the lunar eclipse, everywhere's just going to black out forever. All the electrics are going to go down. That's it. And I thought, well, no, because I won't get any readings through if that happens. So no, go be in the woods, and if it happens, it happens. I'm sure it'll come back online.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah,
it'll be amazing for you all to see it. It'll be really good. So
I don't think the polarities, the aliens are going to eat us, or we can live in harmony with them. Either the lights are going to go dim or everything's going to be fine.
Or we're just going to have an amazing time and have these energies help us expand again, providing we've got room to, as long as we've got rid of some stuff and released whatever we need to. Yeah. On the full moon. I think that'd be really good. So
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll send those links over.
Thank you. Yeah, and great conversations as always, and we'll definitely have to keep this up and
our random conversations. Yeah.
And I look forward to
it's pretty cool,
seeing it. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
I can stop it too.
Like